Welcome to the Vin Armani Show. We are streaming live on YouTube at youtube.com/VinArmani. Also on Twitter and Periscope. At Vin Armani is my handle there. And today, we would usually be streaming on the Facebook page of our content partner, Activist Post, but we are not. And we will talk about why that is. Has nothing to do with Activist Post. They are still our best allies, and just shout out to all those people at Activist Post, but not a shout out to people on a live Facebook stream on Activist Post. Things are heating up in the world of authoritarianism, and we're going to talk about where the culture is moving. It's an important section of this. We got a great show for you today. Some interesting stories that I think are going to be very important in the coming weeks, maybe even in the coming days. First one is about this Google manifesto. I think this is a very big deal, and I'm going to call it the hill that third wave feminism and perhaps the whole social justice warrior movement will die on. That's a little Vinstradamus, right, straight up front. And also we've got some stories about Venezuela and things happening in the US because status gonna state. To help me get through all of that today, as always, my good friend, co-host, and producer, Mr. Christian Reyes. Christian, good morning.
Thank you, Vin. Good morning.
Oh boy, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's been an interesting week, but I'm doing great.
Yeah, I mean, to say the least, dude, this has been the weirdest week of my entire life.
Huh.
Yes.
Wow.
Well, you know, I left from the show last week, right? Sort of, I'd say in the middle of the show, right? Because we'd had a recorded interview with James Corbett, and so I took off. I went to the airport. I'm not really prepared right now to say where I went, but needless to say, I went on a little bit of a pilgrimage. And as I was going on that pilgrimage, something very unexpected was happening, and that is this book, my new book, Self-Ownership. You could, I guess, if you want to put up the URL, you can. We don't have to do it now, but whatever. This is not a shameless plug. This is to talk about what happened with the week. This book sold out of the first printing.
Nice.
With just sales in cryptocurrency, just promoting it on this show and on my own social media.
Crazy.
Now, I don't know what happened. It had some sort of psychological and spiritual effect on me, as happens when you have your whole understanding of reality and the way that the world works blown apart. And now the thing for me, why that was surprising to me. Now, granted, the first printing was not very many books.
Yeah.
Right? It was only 50 books. It was only supposed to be advanced copies that were going to be for like super fans, and then waiting, because I was waiting for the audiobook to come in for me to edit, which I'm in the process of editing. So I wanted to have something for people, because it was printed, have something for people, and I could do signed copies, and I wanted to sell something with cryptocurrency to the crypto savages out there. You know, this is my second book, right? My first book is called Tao of the Gigolo. I wrote it in 2011. It's about my experiences in the world of being both an escort and a TV star. Right. So it's a lot about value. What is value? It's a lot about relationships. It's my understanding up to that point about how to turn yourself. It's a book for men, but it seems that the women who read it get a lot out of it too.
I'm sure.
You know what I mean? And because it's really about what does it take to make yourself a high value person that people want to spend time around? Not only that they want to spend time around, but that they will pay money just to be in your presence because you're such high value. What does that take? Right? Like, what's the philosophy behind that? And so I distilled that as best that I could at that time, and I put it into a book called Tao of the Gigolo. Now that's been up on Amazon for now 6 years. And it does relatively well, you know, in no small part due to the fact that, one, I'm on a TV show, right? So there's some amount of fans who are like, oh, I want to get that, because they're just fans of the show.
Absolutely.
Even though it's not the biggest show in the world, the people who are fans are fucking hardcore fans of the show Gigolos, right? Two, it was actually this last season, season 6, finally the producers of the show were like, hey, would you like to do like a reading of your book? Like, we'll do a book reading and we'll film it. That's cool. We'll put it on the show. And it was actually a really nice little segment in an episode. So you would expect that this book would do relatively well, you know? So I get maybe a couple $100 check from Amazon every month, maybe, sometimes less,
Right.
sometimes a little bit more, so it's kind of like a steady trickle.
That's cool.
And it's cool.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not complaining. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
exactly.
6 years on from writing the book, I'm not complaining about getting a check from Amazon, certainly. But, and also, my brother is a professor at University of Chicago and had a book published on University of Chicago Press that was very, very well received, an ethnographic 5-year study of Skid Row in Los Angeles. Very well received. He traveled around. He did a book tour. He was on NPR. They interviewed him in a long segment on Which Way LA with Warren Olney and all this shit. And I know his book didn't sell even doing that. And certainly the amount of money that he ended up in his pocket with in the advanced printings was nothing even compared to what I made in cryptocurrency this last 2 weeks.
Crazy.
So this is like an embodiment of crypto savagery,
Right.
to where it's like I actually got a chance to see, to embody this and to see that all of the things that I've been saying, it's not theory,
Yeah.
it's agorism, it's thought and action consistent with freedom. And what I realized was like, this is it. And it's meaning to be, because this philosophy is the basis of, this is the very book where in the very last essay is where I coined the term crypto savage. So why shouldn't this be the first crypto savage product?
love
So
it.
what I've decided is this, bro. This will never be sold except by me, except for cryptocurrency. It will never be sold except as a signed, personalized copy.
Nice.
And I'm only printing these in small batches ever, like small batches of 50.
Sick, dude.
Right?
Love it.
And the cool thing about this is, it's really a chance to experiment with Austrian economics and the ideas of how an economy really works on a small scale. Incentives, all of this. Because look, this has all the things that cryptocurrency and the blockchain have.
Yeah.
All of the fundamental economic underpinnings are here. Because you've got, I'm going to make it scarce. I'm going to force scarcity. Not only do I force scarcity, so you force scarcity like I'll tie it to Bitcoin.
Yep.
You force scarcity in Bitcoin. There's only ever going to be 21 million coins. Okay. 2, block size limits. That means at any given time, only so many transactions can ever be put up. That means the more congested the network gets, the higher the miner fee gets. We've been watching this whole debate of increasing block size. Well, we've basically got a block size because I've got 50 books. 50 books per printing. Every printing has the date that it's printed on it. So there's only ever going to be the people who have ordered it so far, I think, except for there may be like 3 new orders that just came in. All of yours are going to say, well, except for you and 2 other people have ones that are actual proofs that were that say proof on the back and have. There's only 4 of those, right? You, Jeff Paul, I kept 2 for myself, and then I gave 1 to my mom. You know what I'm saying? But everybody so far, it's going to say made in the USA, San Bernardino, California, which is where the printer was, 24th July 2017. I've got the new 50 coming. Okay. The new 50 are going to say something like August 1st or 2nd. Okay? They're always going to be signed. Now, what's funny is that some of this may sound reminiscent to you. Because this is how you and I even became business partners.
Sick, dude. I love it.
Isn't this crazy?
It's great.
Okay, so some people know that I own a vodka company called Baby Vodka that's distilled here in Las Vegas. It's an absolutely amazing vodka. I mean, you're a mixologist. Is it the best vodka you've ever? It's like a paradigm shift of vodka, right? The way that you and I met and became business partners was because I was saying, how do you increase the value of this bottle? And you said, well, you personalize it and engrave it. So each bottle is different and unique. It resonated with me. How soon did we have an engraving machine after that?
Dude, like a week.
Show people about, so that we can show them what we're talking about. Just grab one from behind you and just hold it up to the camera. This was Christian's idea. This was his brilliance and so it's like this. So you can imagine as this starts happening, now I start seeing years of building up to this moment.
Yeah.
Right? You're getting chills, right?
Dude, it's sick.
Okay.
I love it.
So now imagine this at like multiplied by like 50 and lasting for a whole week.
Yeah.
What you're experiencing right now, where it's resonating with you, okay? So then I was like, okay, but what am I gonna do about like the Kindle / the PDF version and the audiobook?
Yeah.
What I'm gonna do with that is we're gonna use the Interplanetary File System, IPFS, which is uncensorable. It's gonna be the new web. It's backed by Filecoin, the cryptocurrency Filecoin, which people know. I talk about Swarm City, I talk about Filecoin. Those are my two. I say that's going to be your Apple and Google, respectively. Apple in terms of the sort of cultural, sort of rebel ethic, think different, that's Swarm City, right? It's very much Steve Jobsian. And then the very by the book, let's get this right because this is going to be the future infrastructure and the tools that everybody's going to use, that all of us in this new culture are going to use. That's the Interplanetary File System, that's Filecoin, and that's Juan Bennett, who is a stone cold fucking genius. Now Filecoin just had their like initial round. They haven't even offered it to the public yet. They had their initial round, and I think they raised something like $50 million. Biggest investors, the Winklevoss twins. You recognize that name? They were the people who initially started Facebook with Mark Zuckerberg at Harvard.
Oh, shit.
That's who's backing. So if you want to bet on something,
Right?
go where the smart money's going,
Yeah.
right? So the guys who discovered Zuckerberg discovered Juan Bennett now too. They're going to be big holders in what is going to be the new Google. That's IPFS. Now what's interesting about IPFS, dude, it's uncensorable. It's basically a mesh. It's a mesh network.
Yeah.
Which is one of the three technologies
Right, that we
that
talked
from the
about.
beginning I said is going to be necessary for freedom.
Yeah.
I said cryptocurrency, small scale, high yield agriculture, and mesh networks. This mesh network is uncensorable, and it's got this level of privacy to where you can access it from your browser, but you don't access files by address. You access them by a hash that basically identifies that particular file. But the hash is like a Bitcoin key. It's unguessable. If you don't pass it on to somebody, they don't know what the hash is. So this is going to enable me. I'm already going to start working on setting up the system to do this. I'm going to be able to sell, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sell a package where you're going to get hashed for yourself. It's going to be a file that exists that I'm only sending you this hash. Each person's going to have a unique hash. It's going to, one for the PDF file and one for the audiobook, right? The audiobook so you can listen through, the PDF so that you can, go in if there's something and really read the text. And then when I do that, the price of these is going to go up.
Oh, man. Fucking love it, dude. Sick.
This is going to be a great and grand experiment, and I think it's really going to turn out to pay off. The profit margin on these is, I mean, this is how we get really independent.
And it's the embodiment of the philosophy.
It's the embodiment of the philosophy.
Yeah.
It's thought and action consistent with freedom. It's agorism. It's crypto savagery.
Yep. Love it.
Isn't that crazy, dude? But needless to say, this has been a mind-blowing week. And we recorded the interview with Anarchyball. I recorded it yesterday. It wasn't convenient for him to do it today. And it was unexpectedly amazing. I was like, okay, that's the cap to the week. This is just magical. Like, what's happening right now is just amazing. And I'm so encouraged and everything. Now, I want to get into these stories.
Cool.
If people want to get a book, if they want to order from this new batch, it should be here in a day, vinarmani.com/self-ownership. You can only pay with cryptocurrency. And if you want it personalized in any way, you want any message on there, there's any thought that you want to send to me, there's a box. It's kind of weird because it's sort of the box to enter it in is sort of underneath the submit button. So just be looking. Underneath the submit button, it says like message to Vin or something like that, personalization message to Vin or something. The other great thing, dude, that I love about this that is so much better than Amazon, this was also like all these things, dude, but this one was just like, whoa. the number of people, I would say the percentage, dude, it was probably a quarter of the people said it explicitly. I don't know how many people it was true for, were like, I just bought my first cryptocurrency just so I could buy your book.
Oh, shit. Sick.
It brought people in onto the blockchain.
Yeah.
I've been telling people, go out, get a wallet, get on the blockchain. I've been saying like a mantra, like, go get on the blockchain, go get on the blockchain, go get a wallet, go buy some Bitcoin, go buy some Bitcoin. Nah, all I had to do was write a book and offer it for only Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And here's what's crazy. I already knew this. Go ahead and you can take this off. They know it's self-ownership. I already knew this. Because I had said this to Roger Ver back in December. Put up this Ver tweet. Okay, so Roger Ver on December 13th, 2016 said, the best time to buy Bitcoin was 8 years ago. The second best time is now. And I replied, the best time to buy Bitcoin will be when there is something truly valuable for sale that cannot be purchased except with Bitcoin.
Right.
This is the embodiment.
Amazing.
You want more crypto savages? Everybody out there, if you're a crypto savage and you want to build more, how do you build more crypto savages? Make something of value and make it so that only crypto savages are allowed to have it. That's it. That's it. What a powerful now my whole shit is changed. The other thing I want to say, dude, this week, what I understood was one, everything I've done my entire life has led up to this. As it should, well, one, that's just axiomatically true.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Your past has led to now.
Right.
If you've been watching in your past and you've learned the lessons, they build on each other, and eventually they get to a point where you're like, okay, I know what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
That I felt this week. So, remember when Jeffrey Tucker said, human liberty is something, he said something to the effect of, like, in our interview, what was that, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
He said, great interview, man. God damn, it's always great to talk with Jeffrey Tucker. He said, now I'm paraphrasing. He said, the studying human liberty is something that you can never reach, like, the end of.
Yeah.
You can study
ongoing.
it every day, you can talk about it every day, you can write about it every day, and it doesn't end. And the reason why is because it's an ever-evolving thing.
Yeah.
And you can be part of the evolution of human liberty. Mm-hmm. And this is how you do it. Create something of value and stick it only inside only available inside the realm of human liberty. Make people come for it. Make people come for it. But we know this.
Yep. I think the
look at the big corporations. Look at Disney. Mm-hmm. Look at what Disney's. Think about this for a minute. What's one of the big complaints about going to Disneyland? How expensive the food is. Mm-hmm. Anything you buy is marked up like 60, 70.
Yeah, seriously.
Right? Why? Because it's only available there. Mm-hmm. The rarity, the exclusivity, these are just simple economic axioms, but you can embody them. And now, because we have control over our own money, free money that we don't have to answer to the banks, it's free, we can do it. And we can do it non-violently, without trying to take the reins of power, without voting, without any of this shit. Mm-hmm. This is the path to liberty.
Yeah.
And it finally resonated with me. And so I've been on this, it feels like almost like a mystical high, dude. You could probably tell I'm souped. No, seriously, bro. I have had to eat minimally, and yet I've been working out. I've been sleeping 2 hours at night and a little 1 hour nap, and I'm good.
Oh, shit.
I'm just operating on another type of energy, dude.
Yeah, that's sick.
In some ways, it's a little disconcerting because my brain's going crazy, but I know that once I get it all, it'll roll down. So, speaking of people keeping things inside an ecosystem, our stories are going to kind of deal with that today. I want to bring up another thing about. Maybe I'll do this. I'll do that next week because it's interesting. It's something about the book, but I'll save it for next week because I've talked about it way too much already. Let's get to these stories. Speaking of companies that have an ecosystem and keep you inside of that ecosystem, our first story is an interesting one. This is about the Google manifesto that came out. I'm calling this is going to be my prediction. This is going to be the hill on which third wave feminism in particular, and social justice warriorism in general, this is going to be the hill upon which it dies. I'm very much reminded Arthur Miller's play, The Crucible, which was then turned into actually a really, really great tearjerker of a movie with Daniel Day-Lewis, always killing it, and Winona Ryder. If you've never seen this movie or you never read the play, like I read it in school, it's about the Salem witch trials, but it was written, I think Miller wrote it in the 50s, if I'm not mistaken. But it's about the Salem witch trials, and it is, excuse me, I need to get this fan on my face. It was basically him talking about the sort of hysteria around communism. And he was talking about that this has happened in the past where you can have a hysteria like the Red Scare, where McCarthyism, where you can have a hysteria. It's just the nature of hysteria. It's like an archetypal hysteria. It's not necessarily about witches or anything like that. But there's a point in that story. So if you don't know about the Salem witch trials, basically this group of girls started accusing all of these people of being witches. And the court was using what was called spectral evidence. These girls were saying that they were seeing demons hovering above people, and the court allowed that to happen. This was a Puritan court. At this time, actually, the charter of New England was in kind of flux. So this was actually a time when those Puritans had a stateless society. They were just running it based on congregationalism. This was actually a try at anarchism, and it's super interesting. I'm reading the biography of Cotton Mather right now, who's actually remembered for he was pretty much their spiritual leader. And they reached out to him, the people who were judging, and they reached out to him in a letter and said, can we use this spectral evidence? And this is why history remembers him negatively, is that he said, spectral evidence, really not reliable. This is not something that should be really considered evidence. However, in times of emergency, certain exigent circumstances, then, evidence like that might be able to be used. We're going to see how that's related to our later stories about Venezuela and what's going on here in the States as well. And so all of these people ended up getting hung. Now, what's interesting, if you watch that movie, at the end, how it basically ends is the head girl, the main girl who's involved in all of these shenanigans, she's gained a lot of power. People are afraid of her. If they do something bad to her, she just accuses them of being a witch. And these judges, who are the Puritan sort of religious leaders, they're allowing this to go on because it's giving them more and more and more power and control over all of these people, right? Through her. At the end, how the shenanigans go away is she gets mad at one of the judges for not doing what she wants. And she goes to the head judge and she says, I saw Reverend Smith. I saw Reverend Smith's wife dancing with the devil. And the head judge says, what? She says, yes, I saw Reverend Smith's wife dancing with the devil. And he says, my dear girl, I believe you are mistaken. And she says, no, I'm not mistaken. And he says, you are mistaken. And that's what we're seeing with this story at Google. And I'll explain to you just how this works. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's check out this story. This is our manifesto story. This is from Gizmodo. Anti-diversity screed circulating internally at Google. A software engineer's 10-page screed against Google's diversity initiatives is going viral inside the company, being shared on an internal meme network and Google+. The document's existence was first reported by Motherboard, and Gizmodo has obtained it in full. In the memo, which is the personal opinion of a male Google employee and is titled Google's Ideological Echo Chamber, the author argues that women are underrepresented in tech not because they face bias and discrimination in the workplace, but because of inherent psychological differences between men and women. Quote, we need to stop assuming that gender gaps imply sexism, he writes, going on to argue that Google's educational programs for young women may be misguided. The post comes as Google battles a wage discrimination investigation by the U.S. Department of Labor, which has found that Google routinely pays women less than men incomparable roles. Okay, so Christian, here's the basic breakdown of this. Having been a software developer, what I will say is women are underrepresented in tech. If you take everything away, women will be underrepresented in tech. Tech is part of the functioning of the male brain.
Yeah.
It has some things to do with biology, some things to do with hormones and whatnot. On the development teams I've worked on, 99% men. The women who in general were on the teams, in the actual tech side, not in the marketing and HR, but on the actual tech side, were generally front-end designers. So because they had great aesthetic taste, right? So they and the UI in those cases, some of the best user interfaces, because it takes a lot of compassion, right? One of the things about it's actually jokes in the industry, and there's plenty of memes about this that flow around in tech circles, is that when engineers design a shitty UI and somebody's like, I can't figure out how to use this, they're like, oh, you're stupid then. No, seriously, engineers hate, like, one of my business partners, the reason why we got along so well was that he's a front-end guy. So I would basically build out a UI that was damn near unusable, and he would then make it usable and beautiful. And he is actually the head of user experience now for Saatchi Art, which is one of the biggest online art sales places. So he's excellent at that. But yes, that has a sort of a feminine element to it, right? Now, the thing about this is white lies, right? Which is like a lie that you tell, but it's okay because you're saving someone's feelings. This is a black truth. This is a truth, but it's not something that needs to be said. Anybody spending time in that industry knows this is true. This is how I know this is a low-level developer, a young guy who's probably been watching. I'm not going to say names, but there's plenty of people out there that this is going on, and he thinks that this is what he's going to do and that he's going to change things. Okay, here's all the problems with this. One, if you as a developer have a problem with the culture at Google, you can leave. If you're a developer who can get hired at Google, you can make a six-figure salary working for startups that will fit the exact culture that you want. You can shop around. There's no shortage of jobs. So leave. You don't like the culture? Don't talk about it. Don't write a memo. Don't cause problems. Just peace. That's taking responsibility. That's taking self-ownership. You're happening to the world. The world is not happening to you. Okay? So yes, you're right. But the question is, what's more important? Is it more important to be right, or is it more important to do the right thing? That's the real question. Okay. That's the first issue. That's the issue with him. Second part about it is, what I will say is, his opinions are not representative of most developers. Most developers don't give a shit. The second thing that's wrong about that is, this would be the same as a woman in nursing saying, men are underrepresented in nursing not because of a bias, but because women are just more interested in nursing. And they're probably more apt at it. This is something that we kind of talked about with James Corbett, that psychopaths are more apt at government, so that's why there's so many fucking psychopaths in government. They're just better at it. This goes right back to that. It goes full circle. But, and here's the big caveat, Google, and now I've had several interviews with Google, and I usually cut them off at the first phone interview, just because I don't, like, for me, I'd rather have the culture fit, because I know that I'm technically competent, which is the reason why I worked in small development teams on startups. I have a creative nature. You know me. I don't want to be put inside a box. I want to be in a team that's like, you think what? That wants to innovate. So I would usually be brought in at whiteboard. So I would actually be able to take the idea and manifest it in the way that I thought it should be manifested. I don't have to work inside the box. And so I'd usually cut these Google interviews off like, I don't even know why I took another one of these, because they're just like, okay, now explain to me, if we're doing like this, and it's like, dude, this is not. I had one with Google where he was like, specifically, this one I cut off right then. And he was like, okay, go and get a pad of paper and a pencil. And I was like, and he was like, now, write a function that did, I forgot what the function did, something relatively simple. And I said, huh? Huh? Why am I writing this on a piece of paper? I've never written code on a piece of paper with a pencil. This feels weird. Why would I be writing code on a piece of paper with a pencil? Then he's like, well, what if you didn't have a computer? And I was like, why the fuck would I be developing and I'm not sitting in front of a computer? And then I was like, and besides, this function is so simple. I would just go and grab it. I would just go search it. It's out there in hundreds of forms. I'd search it and copy and paste it. It's simple. This is not proprietary code. And he's like, well, what if you didn't have the internet?
Oh my God.
And I said, am I going to be working at Google and I don't have a computer or access to the internet and you're still going to ask me to code? I said, I think this interview's over. I think you're looking for somebody else. You're not looking for me.
That's crazy.
Right? Yeah. It's literally insane. But, so here's what you got to consider. Everybody who's working there, be they male or female, has gone through this process. Multiple interviews. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult to get a job there. You have to be highly competent. So it actually doesn't matter whether or not men and women are underrepresented. Stop looking at gender. The women that are there are highly technically competent. They're as competent as the men. Everybody who's there fucking deserves to be there. Because Google doesn't do subjective hiring on their coding teams or their hardware teams. It's objective. It says we need this, and this from this candidate. Very few people make it through. The ones that make it through, here you go. Now, here's what's going to happen. Here's my prediction, because I already see it online. All of the things that I just said are too fucking logical for the social justice warriors. Now, Google has gone, just like the ministers in Salem, Google has gone out and actively hired social justice warriors and given them positions of power because it's helped them to develop censorship tools.
Interesting.
They're the censor brigade, which gives Google more power. It also gives the coders more to do. It creates whole new business sections, because if Google creates censorship engines, then that's something they can sell to governments, to big corporations, et cetera, which right now we're being censored on Facebook. This is something that's coming, which is why I'm putting all my stuff on IPFS, and everybody who, like the people who was like, that's my first time using Bitcoin. It's going to be your first time using the interplanetary file system too, to get the audio book. I'm taking you out. I'm taking you out of it all. I'm taking you to the promised land. Yeah. We're going to go. And not just me. I want it to be a start. I want everybody to do it, because you can.
Yeah.
You're empowered. Let's do it. Let me just serve as an example to show you it can work. Yeah. But here's what's going to happen with the social justice warriors, and I already see it. They're going to demand diversity in hiring there. They're going to demand that the process of hiring technical people that has been very successful, clearly, for Google. They're going to demand that Google basically implement affirmative action and hire less talented coders. And what's going to happen is they're going to hear from the higher ups, my dear, I think you are mistaken. And when they press the issue, they're going to say, my dear, I think you are fired and your department is shuttered.
Oh, shit.
This is going to be the hill on which third wave feminism dies. Mark my words. This is not the first time this has happened before. Arthur Miller was not talking about the Salem witch trials. He was talking about the Red Scare of his time. History repeats itself, and those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Which brings us to, well, and now I'll do this, which brings us to our next story. Don't throw it up quite yet. Don't throw it up. Because, you know, it was interesting. You know, when we interviewed Jeffrey Tucker, I like to ask everybody, how did you come to the idea of liberty, right? I think that's a very interesting question.
Yeah.
I always ask it. It's one of the first questions I ask in any interview. And do you remember what his response was? It was an interesting response because I hadn't heard that, but I hadn't heard it before, but it was very insightful. He said, you know, none of us can really say that because we don't really know where our ideas come from, so anything that we would say about it is really a fabrication. And then he was like, but here's kind of what I think.
Yeah.
Now, in this book, some people have asked who have read it, have said, who read early manuscripts, were like, why did you lead with a discussion on collectivism? Why did you lead with that? Like, why didn't you do the individualism first and then the collectivism, right? And I was like, no, this is the order. This is how it goes. And in preparing for this story and talking about, you know, those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it, you know, this book was sitting on my bookshelf and I picked it up and I was like, well, that's appropriate. Maybe I should thumb back through. This is Socialism by Ludwig von Mises, okay? This is written in 1922.
Oh, shit.
Now, this made Mises famous. On the back here, Hayek has a quote, F.A. Hayek, who won a Nobel Prize in economics. He said, when socialism first appeared in 1922, its impact was profound. It gradually but fundamentally altered the outlook of many of the young idealists returning to their university studies after World War I. I know, for one, I was one of them. So this is Hayek saying, this is the book that turned me into the economist that I am, Nobel Prize winner, right? And his economic theories are the ones that we're embodying and embracing. What's interesting about this book, I got this book from Peter Kallman. He and I were hanging out, first time I had ever been to his house, and he had just come back from Mises, and he had all these. And he was like, dude, you want one of these books? I'm not gonna get through all of these. I was like, yeah, give me this Mises. So 1922, man, this is 5 years after the Russian Revolution. None of the terrible shit had happened yet, right? And when we talk about where do our ideas come from, I found it so interesting that, you know, I had said in doing this book, you were here when I was sitting and I was like, we really need a book that really digs into ownership more because that's not really been addressed. And I talk about the Austrian economists in this book. I found this so interesting. Part 1, and it's funny because even today on Twitter, some people were talking about conservatism and liberalism, and I was like, these terms have been mangled. It's funny that the first part in this is called liberalism and socialism.
Oh, shit.
So it used to be that liberalism was the conservative view, socialism being the progressive view. Now, what this book is this book is an attempt to, it's fucking long.
Yeah, it looks huge.
It's all essays. It's like 600 pages. This is his attempt in 1922 to tell everybody why socialism was going to fail.
Wow.
It hadn't been practiced yet, but he was showing where every inconsistency in Marx is, just on logical inconsistencies.
Yeah.
Now, clearly they didn't listen. Clearly they didn't listen, and they're still not listening, and that's our next story. But what's interesting is the very first essay. Now, I've got this dog-eared, and the reason I have it dog-eared, and this was like a year ago maybe, I only got to page 43. And the reason I only got to page 43 was because I was like, oh, no, I already know how this story ends. Like, it's a perfect prediction, but it's like, oh, I've got history. I actually don't need this. I've read Solzhenitsyn's Gulag Archipelago, so he's talking about, he basically proves that in practice everything that he said. But what is the very first chapter? Ownership, the title, The Nature of Ownership. And I was like, I don't even remember reading that. That's what this is.
Crazy.
It's taking this, but what he doesn't do is he doesn't go into the true deep nature of ownership, and it's from that beginning he doesn't start deep enough. So if anything, it should kind of look like this, I think, that it's like here, this is the dirt, right, and then this is the house, right? Because I needed to go further. He didn't start the story far enough back. And I think that's the key, that if you start the story far enough back, you can extrapolate all the things out. That's what I'm doing in the book.
That's cool.
So let's talk about our next story, because those who don't remember history are doomed to repeat it. Okay? So this is news number 2. We are about to have a repeat of the 20th century. And on schedule. The Bolshevik Revolution was 1917. Here we are in 2017. And it's not the Bolshevik revolution in full swing. It's the Bolivarian revolution in full swing. And it's not about class struggle, it's about identity groups. And the new Russia is Venezuela. And I'm going to make the argument that the new Germany is the good old US of A. Because state is going to state. State is going to state. The 20th century was not about, forget about totalitarianism and authoritarianism. The 20th century, what we're really going to learn was, this was about the nature of the state. So let's take a look at what is going on down in good old Venezuela. This is the elections. From the New York Times, Venezuela's new leaders begin their march toward total control. Members of President Nicolas Maduro's governing party marched triumphantly into Venezuela's Capitol building on Friday, calling to order a 554-member body with plans to rewrite the constitution and consolidate their power over the nation. The Constituent Assembly, as the group is called, took a symbolic jab at their political rivals, parading through the gates of the legislative chamber, holding portraits of former President Hugo Chavez, which were taken down just last year after opposition parties won control of the National Assembly. Could this be like people holding photos of Lenin as Stalin took power? Oh no, nothing. No, couldn't be. Quote, "This assembly didn't emerge from nothing," said Delcy Rodriguez, a former foreign minister close to Mr. Maduro who will lead the body. "It has dodged the obstacles thrown in its way by those who resist democracy." The convening of the assembly was the culmination of an ambitious plan by the president to secure political control over Venezuela. In a contentious election on Sunday, Mr. Maduro instructed Venezuelans to choose delegates from a list of allies in the governing party. Voters were not given the option of rejecting the plan. The body will rule Venezuela for however long it takes its members to rewrite the constitution, giving virtually unlimited power to Mr. Maduro's party. So, Christian, here's what happened. Maduro has been embattled.
Yep.
There have been famines. There are memes out there that it's like the joke is, we've got oil but no food in Venezuela. But that having no food, he's consolidating more power. The famine hasn't been bad for him consolidating power. It's been good, which is a repeat of Russia.
Oh, shit.
And the famines, particularly in Ukraine. In the early going, and then later as well, forced famines, that consolidated more Bolshevik power. That was the Bolshevik party. This is the Bolivarian party. It's almost like history is just laughing at us, right? Where it's like, are you going to see it? Are you going to see it, or are you just going to just be an asshole about it? Right? Now, here's the thing. Both, it's so weird, because what you have is even two oil states, two natural resource. Russia's one of the biggest oil exporters. If they can basically squelch dissent, if they can get everybody in Orwellian lockstep, basically purge the undesirables, as Stalin did in the gulags. Lenin did it too, but Stalin really did it. And I am going to tell you, Maduro's going to do it too. I would advise any Venezuelan, if they're not already out, get out. You're not going to fix your country. Get out. History says you're going to either be dead or in the most horrible prison conditions possible. Get out.
Shit.
Once he gets that locked in, those oil rigs are coming back online, baby. And you're going to have, they have the largest oil reserves. I think it's either first or second compared to Saudi Arabia. Watch out, baby.
Wow.
Watch out. You thought the Soviet Union was bad? They didn't have the destructive power in 1920 that our weapons have today. Watch out. And have the purges begun? Should we be looking at history? How does history look? Let's look at this motorbike story. This is also from the New York Times. Venezuela's ousted attorney general retreats on a motorbike. Venezuela's dissident attorney general sped away from her headquarters on a motorbike on Saturday as she was being ousted by the country's new all-powerful assembly, which moved toward a swift consolidation of its power. Quote, "We have asked that she not only be suspended, but removed from her position," Diosdado Cabello, a powerful member of the assembly, said of the dismissed official Luisa Ortega. Quote, "It was approved unanimously." Standing before the group called the Constituent Assembly, Mr. Cabello proposed that it govern Venezuela for up to 2 years before presenting the country with a new constitution that would allow for elections. That constitution is not going to happen. Sidebar, Vinstradamus, In 2 years, guarantee you there will not be a constitution because their power ends as soon as the constitution is written. Members responded with cheers, presumably assenting to the timeline. For months, Ms. Ortega has been one of the most vocal critics of President Nicolas Maduro from within his own political party. In March, she condemned an attempt by the courts to dissolve the legislature, and she has since said that Mr. Maduro's crackdown against protesters has gone too far, saying it could constitute crimes against humanity. Last Sunday, Mr. Maduro held a contentious election to secure control over the country. In the vote, Venezuelans were asked to choose delegates from a list of allies in the governing party who would rewrite the constitution and rule the nation while they did so. Voters were not given the option of rejecting the plan. Ms. Ortega had called the vote illegal and tried to block the assembly members from being seated, and after a software company that set up voting systems said the tally had been manipulated by at least 1 million votes, Ms. Ortega said she was opening an investigation. On Saturday morning, members of the National Guard, carrying rifles and shields, surrounded her headquarters in the capital, Caracas. Ms. Ortega took to Twitter, calling the events a siege. Ms. Ortega tried to enter the building, but was blocked by members of the security forces. Video posted on social media sites showed the Attorney General looking forlorn while retreating from the area, sandwiched between 2 men on a motorbike. Quote, "We must continue to fight for freedom and democracy in Venezuela," she said at a news conference afterwards. This country has lost its freedom. So, Christian, purging uncooperative members of your own party, this is Trotsky. This is Trotsky getting kicked out of the Bolsheviks. This is history repeating itself. There's no mystery as to what comes next. There's no mystery. And what it's looking like to me is all of our attempts to prevent it from happening, it's not. It can't be prevented. Now, what we can do is we can create a new culture inside and start to take over from the state. Now, is that culture in the future also going to become corrupt? Yes, but it's going to become corrupt at least better. You get a little better, and then a new culture has to emerge from that, and a new culture from that. And maybe the new culture that emerges from the crypto-savage culture, when the crypto-savage culture becomes corrupt, is a culture that starts, let's say, on Mars, because we'll probably be on other planets by that time. So at least we have an opportunity even for some geographical distance there. This may be the reason why our internal desire to go to Mars is even there, right? To get some distance.
Yeah.
But this is it. Like, there's no solutions in the state. And this shows it, that no matter what you do, it's the state. It's a system. Systems move in cycles. This is it. This is it.
Interesting.
So, of course, the U.S., though, has decided we are going to be the enemies. We're going to be the enemies of them. Oh, that sounds a lot like Germany. Let's see what we've done. These are sanctions. U.S. hits Nicolas Maduro with sanctions after Venezuela's sham election. This is from The Guardian. Sanctions freeze Venezuelan president's assets under U.S. jurisdiction and prevent U.S. citizens from doing business with him. The U.S. government has imposed financial sanctions on Venezuela's president, Nicolas Maduro, after the election of a new legislative body to redraft the country's constitution in a vote described by Washington as a sham. Maduro hailed Sunday's election as a popular mandate to dramatically recast the troubled state, but his political opponents have warned this could lead to the dissolution of existing powers and turn the country into a fully fledged dictatorship. Nicolas Maduro said, Nicolas Maduro, will Venezuela's president drag his people to the edge? So, this is what the Venezuela officials target for sanctions, which freeze any of Maduro's assets under U.S. jurisdiction and prohibit U.S. citizens from doing business with him. Quote, yesterday's illegitimate elections confirmed that Maduro is a dictator who disregards the will of the Venezuelan people, said Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin. By sanctioning Maduro, the United States makes clear our opposition to the policies of his regime and our support for the people of Venezuela who seek to return their country to a full and prosperous democracy. According to Reuters, the U.S. is still considering broader sanctions against Venezuela's oil industry, which could prove devastating for a country which is already in a state of economic freefall. Economic freefall, yeah, no shit. Look at this Warcraft story. Venezuela's cash is now worth less than currency in World of Warcraft. This is from Fortune. Venezuela's real-world currency, the bolivar, is worth less than fake gold in Azeroth, the mythical setting of World of Warcraft. At least that's the case if you judge the black market value of the bolivar, one of the most popular ways to change money in the country. Caleb, a Twitter user who claims to be a Venezuelan citizen, was the first to note the state of the country's currency crisis early this month, saying black market value of the bolivar, which is notably different than the official exchange rate set by the government, had fallen below that of the massively multiplayer games in-game gold. Christian, you notice they certainly didn't compare it to Bitcoin. Because if it's low compared to If this was, either one of those was a cryptocurrency, they'd be the shittest. But it is a virtual currency, right? So World of Warcraft's gold is a representation of a virtual currency. You see what's entering into the zeitgeist now?
Exactly.
You see what's entering into the mind of the culture?
Right.
We're making comparisons against fiat, state, fake money, and digital assets. That's fortune. Now that's a little parody, right? But what is it? First they ignore you, then they laugh at you. This is them laughing at both Venezuela and digital assets. Then they fight you. Well, we know that the fight is on.
Yeah.
We've covered that. And what happens at the end? Then you win. Right? So, at least we're already in laugh at you on a global scale. But let's see. So, the U.S. has decided that they're going to take some actions because the U.S. is the good guy, right? Because, of course, when you're inside the system, your team is always the good team, and the other guy is always the bad guy. Well, this is what I write about in the book. This is the difference between the civilian and the savage. The civilian is everybody in your culture. The savage is the person in another culture.
Right.
Venezuelans are savages to people of the U.S. culture, right? The socialist is a savage to the, well, as Mises would say, to the liberal, to the classical liberal, and vice versa, right? But what you have to remember is you may be a civilian in your culture, but you're a savage to someone else. So you maybe need to look inside and take the log out of your eye before you tell your neighbor about the speck in his. So let's look at what's going on in the States, because we don't have any authoritarianism. That could never happen here. Let's look at this Sessions story. This is from TechDirt. Jeff Sessions suggests he's steering the DOJ towards prosecuting more journalists. Jeff Sessions and the DOJ are back to threatening leakers again. It seems counterproductive considering each new threat of leak investigations does little to stem the steady flow of leaks, but the new DOJ boss seems ready to go further than his predecessors. Having already expressed an interest in taking care of Obama's unfinished business by going after WikiLeaks, Sessions now appears to be headed towards threatening journalism and the First Amendment itself. This would be a new direction for the Justice Department. I hope so. Considering that's the law of the land. A 2013 report by the DOJ stated it was unwilling to consider the punishment of journalists during leak investigations except as a last resort. As an initial matter, it bears emphasis that it has been and remains the department's policy that members of the news media will not be subject to prosecution based solely on news gathering activities. Furthermore, in light of the importance of the constitutionally protected news gathering process, the department views the use of tools to seek evidence from or involving the news media as an extraordinary measure. Journalists have been subpoenaed before in leak investigations, but the DOJ has generally been unwilling to jail journalists for refusing to hand over information on their sources. Jeff Sessions, however, seems less concerned about using the weight of the law against members of the press. In his written remarks before a press briefing on national security leaks, Sessions said this, quote, "I've listened to career investigators and prosecutors about how to most successfully investigate and prosecute these matters. At their selection, one of the things we are doing is reviewing policies affecting media subpoenas. We respect the important role that the press plays and will give them respect. But it is not unlimited. They cannot place lives at risk with impunity. We must balance their role with protecting our national security and the lives of those who serve in our intelligence community, the armed forces, and all law-abiding Americans." So, he's saying, actually, no. If we decide subjectively that what are the things that you might do? If you're a threat to national security, that's fucking vague. We know that's been used in many myriad ways. 2, you're threatening the lives of those who serve in our intelligence community by leaking any information that our intelligence community. So you leaked information that the CIA is torturing people in black sites. You're putting our intelligence operators at risk. Give us your sources so we can arrest them, or it's to the gulag for you, sir. Let's see. Or the armed forces. So if you say what the military's doing, and all law-abiding Americans. I guess those would be the Americans that he agrees with. So threaten anybody that he likes, make anybody that he likes look bad with your journalism, And see you later, comrade.
Yeah.
Now, what I found interesting about this is that's not the reaction from the press. See, the press has their heads too far up their ass because the press, the mainstream media, is part of the ruling party. Just like the attorney general, the ousted attorney general in Venezuela, it's not like she, just like the guy at Google, it's not like she said, well, I quit as attorney general and I'm going to move to Colombia. She didn't say that. She stuck around. She took a paycheck. Right?
Yep.
Just like the guy at Google. You didn't like the culture enough to not get paid. You didn't dislike what the White House or the DOJ was doing enough to not take a job as a correspondent, to be there all the time. Wait, weren't you sitting next to Jeff Sessions at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, laughing at the jokes? You didn't dislike it enough then. Look at this tweet. Look at this tweet. These fuckers. This is Ari Melber. Sessions tells room of reporters he may make it easier to jail them if they don't reveal sources. Leaves without taking any press questions. Let me read that to you again. This is a reporter who acknowledges Jeff Sessions tells a room of reporters he may make it easier to jail them. No, he's not saying he may make it easier to jail them. He's saying he's announcing the new policy. If they don't reveal sources, leaves without taking any press questions. That tells you how much he respects the press. Christian, if you're in the press, if I'm in the press, and I experience that, I hand in my fucking resignation.
Exactly.
I'm like, dude, guess what? I'm not a member of the press, and I think I'm going to go ahead and just sell off everything I got. I'll be moving down to the Caribbean. I think I'm going to 10 bar at a beach club.
Right.
Because that's a lot more comfortable than Guantanamo Bay. You know what I'm saying? And people are like, Vin, that's overreacting. Just wait. Go back through. We've got 40 weeks of shows. Go to vinarmani.com. Just scroll through the past news and see if all of the stories, down to people who were obscure and now, this last week just popped back up. Weren't we just talking about this guy and one of the only people? And we thought it was important, and then it popped up. And now it's big news. There's a lot of that shit.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it over the past 40 weeks. We've been calling this. I started out this show, every show, saying read 1984. Y'all didn't fucking read 1984? Clearly. I think some crypto savages did. I think the sales of the book says that. Oh, and it's not 1984? Oh, the law is not being twisted? Okay, that's reporters. Fine. But something else happened this week that I think maybe may hit a little closer to home. I think you guys should really pay attention to this one. This is this dog story. Federal judge rules, this is from Reason, federal judge rules unlicensed dogs aren't protected by the Fourth Amendment. So we just had the First Amendment, and Jeff Sessions saying that the First Amendment does not apply anymore. Now the Fourth Amendment does not apply. Nikita Smith sued the Detroit police after they shot her 3 dogs on a pot raid. A judge ruled the dogs were, quote, contraband. A federal judge ruled Wednesday that a Michigan woman has no basis to sue the Detroit Police Department for shooting her 3 dogs because they were not properly licensed. U.S. District Court Judge George Karam-Stee dismissed a federal civil rights lawsuit filed by Detroit resident Nikita Smith last year after a marijuana raid by Detroit police left her 3 dogs shot to death. The ruling is the first time a federal court has considered the question of whether an unlicensed pet, in violation of city or state code, is protected property under the Fourth Amendment. Federal courts have established that pets are protected from unreasonable seizures, read killing, by police. But the city of Detroit argued in motion in March that Smith's dogs, because they were unlicensed, this is so important, were contraband for the purposes of the Fourth Amendment, meaning she had no legitimate property interest in them, and therefore no basis to sue the officers or the department. In his Wednesday opinion, Stee agreed. Quote, the court is aware that this conclusion may not sit well with dog owners and animal lovers in general, the judge wrote. The reason for any unease stems from the fact that while pet owners consider their pets to be family members, the law considers pets to be property. Christian, actually, fucking no.
Yeah.
No, this is not about dogs.
Not at all.
Just like when I talk about the regulation of weed is not about weed. It's about plants.
Yep.
It's about the government telling you that it has the power to determine whether or not you can grow a plant and consume a plant. It's not about weed, it's fucking about tomatoes. It's about squash. It's about spinach. Why? Because one of the things that we need if we're going to have freedom is small scale, high yield agriculture. When you let them have one plant, you let them have them all because it's precedent. That's how the law works. From the standpoint of the law, the fact that they have the right, that you gave them, God damn it, you gave it to them.
Yeah.
You voted for it. You gave the government power over your ability to grow and consume plants on your own private property. Fucking morons. And I've been talking about it from the beginning, since before this show. Since before this show. If you go back and look at the rants that I sort of started that made the people at Activist Post even reach out to me, it's the first rant. Now, what is this about? This is not about dogs. They've altered, this is a district court judge. This is now a federal judge. This is federal precedent. It's about unlicensed property. The government now has precedent to say that they can seize from you any property that you have not licensed under whatever laws they want.
Fuck.
Remember when Jeffrey Tucker said, when we were talking about right statism, right Hegelianism, and he said they don't even smell it. It's been gone for so long that they don't even smell fascism anymore. They don't, because they don't know the philosophy of it.
Right.
They know socialism, where it's just like, no, we're coming with the guns and we take it. No, fascism is different. Fascism does it through the law. This is how fascism does it. And this is how they're going to attack cryptocurrency. Because you can't license it. Or they're going to say you have to license it. And if you don't license it, we're going to take it. So, people, control your own keys. Get your assets out of the exchanges. Get it off of Coinbase. And for God's sake, if you're going to be on the exchanges, don't verify so that you can, that's the problem. I was just on Bittrex. Because I'm using Bittrex anonymously, you know, they have levels of verification.
Right.
Because I'm using it anonymously, it used to be the withdrawal limit was like $500 worth of assets per day. It's down to like 50 now. And they're like, well, if you want to take out more per day, you're going to have to register. You're going to have to register this, which means if I don't report it to the government, if I don't register my property with the government, that they can seize it and go right around the Fourth Amendment. This isn't about dogs. This is about property rights. Which again, the fundamentals. Self-ownership. What does that say? The foundation of property and morality. This is why property is important, and this is why property is tied to morality. You see, left statism, left Hegelianism, ignores property. The right Hegelianism recognizes property, but then it does end arounds on the property. It does end arounds. This is how the Jews, fundamentally, what that was it was civil asset forfeiture. Why did the Jews need to go? So that their assets could be seized. They were the wealthiest group in Germany. Gold, paintings, real estate. I mean, you see, it's crazy that, like, you see the concentration camps, the first thing that they did was they took all their property from them when they arrived. There's pictures of the big heaps of property. This is all done under the color of law, not just force, but law. In right statism, they allow the people to keep the means of production so that they can extract from them. And they do it by continually passing more and more laws until you're under this totalitarian thumb. This is why it's important. We can't stop it. We cannot stop this shit. We cannot stop it. The best we can do is to start to build a hidden community. And again, we're crypto savages. We need to stay as hidden as we possibly can. Keep crypto in mind. This is about hiding. This is about keeping, so this means not conspicuous consumption. You need to be frugal. Don't stand out. Start to learn to enjoy things that are more aesthetic, that are not conspicuous consumption. Those people who are conspicuous consumers will be the first to go, like the Jews of Germany. The bigger your house, the nicer your car. You're going to see that you're going to see in some upcoming cases of the rising fascism that they are going to use propaganda of showing pictures of people driving nice cars and on vacations and whatnot, and they're going to use that. This is coming. As a matter of fact, it's here. There's a story that I didn't cover this week, specifically because I believe it to be too big. It's a story that we've covered before, and you could probably figure out what that is if you want to go through the archives, but I think it's too big, and my gut feeling was that if we covered it, that I actually could put you and I and some other people in actual danger, and so I'll never do that. You know, there was another story that I backed off on. I don't know if you remember, but when we were talking about some of that other hacking story, and it was related to Trump, and I said that I'll never ever talk about what my opinion on that is. And you know, honestly, we did some stuff that was like conspiracy theory, although we don't do conspiracy theory things here. We try to get at the hidden underlying meanings of the news and what's going on. But you know, I said I'm not going to do war porn, and it goes to what James Corbett said last week, where he said, you know, the things that we can do are the things that we can actually do in our real life. He said specifically, what can you and I do about the development of the Hwasong 14 intercontinental ballistic missile? Nothing. So I'm not going to talk about those things, except in relation to just be able to, not that, oh, we've got to stop it, not as a prescription, just as a description, so we can see as things move forward, right? Because we need to know where these markers are so we can look back in history so that we can kind of know where we are. That's the great thing about history. If you know your history, you know where in the cycle you are. Yeah. Right? And so we're at I would say, the build up to World War II. What the build up to World War II was. Stalin and Hitler. And again, that doesn't mean Maduro is Stalin, and it doesn't mean Trump is Hitler, because, you know, that was 70 years ago. The technology is different, the world is different, everything's different. I'm talking about more about an energy. It's not an analog, it's more of an energy of something, right? These things come back around, they come back around. You know, on that note, things coming back around, I saw something that was so cool this week, and it was the first time that I had, well, let's do this. Before I show what's cool, because people are like, I know there's some Trump fans out there who are like, what are you talking about? Trump's not Hitler. Trump's not Hitler. Okay, I'm going to say read 1984. And then I'm going to show this, and I'm not going to give really any commentary on it. And I just want you to just, if you're down with Trump, you're still making excuses, you're still an apologist, you still think he's better than the Hildebeest or Crazy Hillary, which she was a crazy bitch. And it would have been a totally different type of authoritarianism, right? Well, not totally different. I mean, authoritarianism is authoritarianism. But it would have had its own fucking flavor, you know what I mean? Like, it still would have been pizza. Like, now we got pepperoni, that would have been like Hawaiian, you know what I mean? With mushrooms and shit. Maybe a little jalapeno in there, because it's multicultural. Right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, let's do this McEnany. So, Kelly McEnany left CNN yesterday. Today, she made her debut on Trump TV. This is yesterday, sharing the real news. What is the real news? Go ahead, let's do Trump news.
Everybody, I'm Kayleigh McEnany. Thank you for joining us as we provide you the news of the week from Trump Tower here in New York. More great economic news on Friday. The July jobs report added a better than expected 209,000 jobs. Overall, since the president took office, President Trump has created more than 1 million jobs. The unemployment rate is at a 16-year low, and consumer confidence is at a 16-year high, all while the Dow Jones continues to break records. President Trump has clearly steered the economy back in the right direction. On Wednesday, the president introduced the RAISE Act. For decades, a steady rise in immigration has depressed the wages of American workers. The RAISE Act will increase wages, decrease poverty, and save the taxpayers billions. Americans deserve a raise, and President Trump is finally putting the American worker first. Also on Wednesday, President Trump awarded the Medal of Honor to one of our Vietnam War heroes, Specialist 5 James McCloughan. McCloughan risked his life on 9 separate occasions, saving many of his wounded peers. President Trump also honored veterans as a whole with yet another VA reform package that will enable millions of veterans to receive better access to care. President Trump is dedicated to honoring these men and women who fought valiantly for our country and ensuring that they receive the care that they deserve. Thank you for joining us, everybody. I'm Kaylee McEnany, and that is The Real News.
I'm just going to leave that there. I'm just going to leave that there. I don't think any comment's necessary. So what I was saying, Christian, is something very cool that I saw this week. Really, again, it's been an encouraging week, right? It's been a very encouraging week. But since I was encouraged, I saw it, I didn't want to let it pass by, and I wanted to take note of it, and I wanted to encourage other people as this moves forward. So go ahead and show this Kokesh Twitter thing. So Zach Ford at Zach Ford 9 did something very, very cool. He so some people know that I've been recently finding like the real nuggets that I really like out of our interviews, especially, and I've been posting them on my Twitter as these Twitter videos, and people have been really enjoying them. The Jeffrey Tucker one and the James Corbett one, really, a lot of people have been sharing. So what's cool is Zach Ford, who I know, we've had conversations, follows me. I think I may follow him as well. He said, at Adam Kokesh on at Vin Armani podcast, explaining his plan to dissolve the federal government, hashtag Kokesh for not president. And he basically did a Periscope video, and it looks like he was filming his screen, and he got like 65 viewers on it.
Nice.
And so you can bring us back, Christian. I just want to say, it's over here. I just want to say to everybody, like, one, all of the stuff that we put out is put out with a Creative Commons license. So you are totally cool to do this. Not only are you cool to do this, I want you to do this.
Right.
Like, please, please share this, because you know what? We have never, and we don't ever expect to make money off the ads coming from fucking Google. As a matter of fact, I expect, this is why we also don't have a Patreon. Because the shit that we talk about on this show, I fully expect, look, we've already been censored by Facebook now. Facebook has locked us out of the account that we use for 3 days now. Has locked us out of the account that we use to stream to Facebook, and that we have been using to stream to Facebook for 40 weeks now. We're locked out of that, okay? So there's one down. So now we're on Twitter's infrastructure, and we're on Google's infrastructure with YouTube. I fully expect,
yeah, seriously,
especially as this show gains in terms of audience, I fully expect to be censored from both Google and from Twitter. 100%.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
So we're already in the process of making that move. So you sharing is awesome, right? Yeah. Because eventually we're going to need it, because I'm not even going to be able to put the show up on my own account. Right? So you guys are going to have to help eventually. So here's the thing. It's Creative Commons license. I love this idea of finding the things that really resonate to you in the show and putting those clips up.
Yeah,
now,
that's cool.
what's I think Twitter video's great because it's like a meme. It plays right in your feed. It's fantastic. The thing is this, you're only going to get about 2 minutes, which is actually good.
Yeah.
Because like the 140 characters, it makes you really think and be efficient with where you edit and cut things. But what I want to recommend, if you're doing this so that you don't have to do that Periscope, there's no reason to do a live feed of an already recorded show. That makes no sense.
Yeah.
Right? So what you should do, what I actually use is, what I actually use is I use clipconverter.cc, totally free on this website. You go there, you enter in the YouTube URL, and then you pick the quality, just pick the highest quality, and you can export it to MP3, MP4, AVI, WMV, a whole bunch of different formats. And you can also actually, right in that, you can fundamentally do your editing. So you can pick a start time and end time in the YouTube video. It's super fast. It gives you the file. Now you've got it. The quality is super high. And what I would suggest if you're gonna do the Twitter video is leave yourself a little bit of leeway on either end when you go on clipconverter.cc. Leave yourself a little bit of leeway on either end so that you can then edit it in Twitter. You know, you can sort of condense it. Don't like narrow it down so much. Leave yourself a little leeway, and then you can edit it once you upload it onto Twitter. And what I want to tell to people, it was funny because also what happened this week, I had forgotten about this. You know, because I left and went on my pilgrimage, I usually give Activist Post the audio and video of the show, and then they take the audio, and that's what they stick up as a podcast. People were on Twitter and even emailing me like, where's the podcast? Where's the podcast? It didn't show up in my feed. Where's the podcast? It didn't show up in my feed. And I'm like, one, that's fucking awesome, guys.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad that it means that much to you that you're worried about it. And for that there was half a dozen people. That means that there were probably, from my understanding of anecdotal, these metrics, that means there were hundreds of people who were feeling the same way.
Yeah.
Right? Because maybe 1 in 100 will actually take the time to go and say something, right? Which, again, and don't worry, we'll get to Anarchyball. I'm going to actually shut up in a minute. What I want to say is this. Here's what's part of being a crypto savage. If I haven't put the podcast up, if you don't have access to it, you can get it in 2 minutes. Same thing, clipconverter.cc, convert it to MP3, you'll have it for yourself, and then go ahead and share it with people.
Yeah, that's
Stick it up somewhere and say, oh, if those people waiting for Vin Armani's podcast, here it is. They'll love you. I'll love you because you helped them, you got it to them. Don't worry, it's getting there. What I want to tell you is I'm very committed. It's just us, though. It's just us doing this. So sometimes, we have lives and we have things that happen. So as of now, this show doesn't generate enough money for us to not prioritize those things in our life that pay the bills. So you can help, I guess, by choosing to spend your hard-earned dollar with us. And we'll never ask you for it. And we'll never expect it. And what we'll promise is that we will create things of value for you to buy, where you will feel at the end of the day that what you got was worth more than what you paid.
Yeah.
That's how we do it. That's crypto savagery. Let's go to break. We'll do counter markets, and then we'll do Anarchyball. Welcome back to the Vin Armani Show. We are streaming live on YouTube at youtube.com/VinArmani. On Twitter and Periscope at VinArmani is my handle there. Today, we are not streaming on the Facebook page of our content partner, Activist Post. And Facebook has locked us out with no reason from the account that we used to stream. We're being censored. But maybe we'll be back, maybe we won't. But I still want to send a shout out to Activist Post because, of course, we're still working with them. Check out their podcast network, man. We're on that as well. And go follow them at Activist Post on Twitter. So before we get into this interview, I want to talk to you guys a very short bit, and then we'll get into it on counter markets. So counter markets, the new issue is out. Trends and strategies for maximum freedom. Countermarkets.com, the August issue. I'm very excited about this issue. I started the article that I wrote. I didn't know where it was going to go, but I left it feeling like, oh wow, this is so cool. As some of you know, people who follow me, I've been a big advocate of Bitcoin ATMs for many years. I almost exclusively use them because, unlike Coinbase, I don't have to leave a paper trail, a state paper trail that can be easily taken, that can be easily used against me, that can be easily grabbed with the new asset forfeiture laws that it looks like just got passed with this dog shooting. So I've been very much into Bitcoin ATMs. There are a lot in Vegas, so they're easy to use. I think it's fantastic technology. So I wanted to explore the actual economics of it and see, for crypto savages and subscribers to Countermarkets at countermarkets.com, what really could you get involved in the Bitcoin ATM business? And so I did a breakdown. I talk about exactly why I believe that this is an underappreciated sector, of why I believe there's so much money to be made in it. And I run the numbers, I go through and I show the actual devices, the actual amount that they cost. I do a review of the top 3 Bitcoin ATM manufacturers, tell you where you can go to actually buy these ATMs, which are not that expensive. We're talking between $3,000 and maybe $10,000 for the maximum deluxe one. And then I go into the economics, and man, I looked at it and I was like, oh shit, this is a very good investment. So if you want to go, countermarkets.com, you can get your first issue for free. And we know you're going to love it so much. I mean, this is just one of the many things that we're doing to try to make you some money while getting more freedom, because that's how you move a market forward. If you put the incentives, if people are making money, then people will come to it. So we know that you're going to love it. We know that you're going to get a lot out of it. We've already got tons of people subscribed to it. And if you subscribe with cryptocurrency, you're going to get a massive discount. In fact, the discount that you get by subscribing to cryptocurrency, subscribing with cryptocurrency, makes it more than worth it for you to go to an ATM, get the cash, go to a Bitcoin ATM near you, which you can find at coinatmradar.com. You can find a Bitcoin ATM near you, and get the Bitcoin ATM out and use the Bitcoin that you get out of the ATM with that cash. You will still have saved money. That's what we're trying to do. Incentivize. That's how you do it. You don't yell at people and force them to do things. You don't pass laws. You give them incentives. No violence necessary. So go and check it out. New issue. Get your first issue for free. Countermarkets.com. And with that, Christian, let's go ahead and go to this interview. My guest today is someone who has had a profound influence on me and my views on liberty, my views on a stateless society. If you're watching this show, if you're a fan of this show, I'm sure this is somebody that you're familiar with. The most famous ball out there, at least in our movement. I'm of course talking about Anarchyball. Anarchyball, welcome to the Vin Armani Show.
Thank you. You're too kind. A lot of statists end up taking the ball on the chin, but it's really good to know that some people out there are actually taking it straight to the head.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that is a very I think that's a very good description of exactly how you have had an influence on people. Well, you know, I want to tell you a story, and I think that it really does influence us. I saw that someone had actually sent you sort of the photo proof that this happened, but I want to tell you the story because so that people know it just shows how deep your influence is, and I think how lasting and how powerful what it is that you do and how important what it is that you do is. I was at Porcupine Freedom Fest. Yeah, I was at Porcupine Freedom Fest in New Hampshire, and I was speaking there. And the day that I was speaking, Lynn Ulbricht, the mother of Ross Ulbricht, was about to speak. Early in the day, I went up, gave her a hug, sat down, sort of backstage while she was setting things up, getting ready to speak. And these 2 young girls walked up, probably between 12 and maybe 15, and they had this like a metal, I don't know, a metal square, and on it they had these magnets, and it turns out that they had 3D printed these magnets that had all these different symbols on it, and they had, of course, Bitcoin, and they were selling it for Bitcoin, but they had the symbols for Bitcoin, and they had symbols for anarchy and everything, and right there, prominently in the middle, was you. It was your ball. Wow. Right there, and it was. And so, of course, I bought some of these magnets, and I took them home, and they're on my refrigerator now. And I paid in Bitcoin, and it was just awesome. And I thought, this is the future, man. Like if we're talking about getting to that stateless society, the Agora, Ancapistan, whatever you want to call it, that vision, I was like, this is it. And I didn't see anybody else in the movement's face, logo, or anything, but yours was there. So you're having a profound impact, man.
That's great. Yeah, that makes me feel like the Che Guevara of liberty right there. I hope people start wearing my T-shirts, and that face becomes as iconic and much more peaceful and better for society than Che Guevara ever was.
You know,
that would be
I
great.
hadn't thought of that. I had not thought of that, man, but I guess you kind of are. And every movement, in order to be successful, I guess you have to have that person. And it couldn't be a better ball. I'll have to say that. It couldn't be a better ball. Let's get into.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I don't think people really know too much about you and too much about your history. What were the initial ideas that made you decide that you wanted to devote your efforts to the cause of liberty?
Well, first there was a meme page movement called Anarchyball, and Anarchyball had a bunch of flags that they had shaped into poorly drawn balls, and they made comics making fun of other country balls, and so anarchy was not represented. So immediately after people realized that anarchy wasn't represented, Anarchyball was born, and I've been around ever since. So now there's someone to put all the other country balls in their place, as they should be, because they are nothing but aggressive and basically backwards. And we're going to fix that. And so that's what I'm here to do, is make fun of them until they cry. Basically.
So was this your first sort of foray into the art world, this country ball experiment, or do you have a formal art background, or was this a passion project when it started?
No, it's calling it art is very loose. I think mostly it's a poorly drawn circle and some colors, and you can do it on MS Paint if they continue leaving it in on the program on Windows. But if you have MS Paint and you can draw poorly a circle with 3 hairs on top, yellow on one side, black on the other, you can make your own country ball comic featuring Anarchyball. So and I encourage you to.
Oh, so you're not very protective over this thing that you've created then. You want other people to go out and do it.
Not at all. No, not at all. If you are anti-IP and people start resonating with your message, it will confuse the hell out of your enemies. They will see your face everywhere if you do good work. And that's exactly what I want. I want people to think that I am everywhere. And the more people create and use my image and everything else, the better off I will be in the end.
So
I completely accept being a meme.
So we're talking about your seeing your face everywhere. So we've got the eyes for sure, no mouth. You've got the 3 hairs. Talk to us about these hairs. I'm not used to seeing a ball with hairs on, and why have you not gone full shave like myself?
Well, you see, a lot of people try to draw Anarchyball without hair, and a lot of Anarchyball admins have taken that up, and I, for one, am completely against it. Everybody else was starting Anarchyball hate pages, so I thought I'd start one too about the other Anarchyball admins who left out the hairs, and so I am now shaming them with the Anarchyball agenda on Facebook. I made a hate page of my own brand, so it's fun. It's all in good fun. We like to chide each other about such trivial matters like the hairs and whatnot. And yeah, so a lot of people ask, why does Anarchyball have 3 hairs? And,
right.
And my only response is, why do none of the other balls have hair? I think they're jealous.
So if we see a fully bald Vin Armani style Anarchy Ball. This is not coming from the original Anarchy Ball. Every time that we see an original, it's going to have 3 hairs. Is that one way that we can sort of know that we can have some provenance on where these things are coming from?
Well, there's a lot of different variations on Anarchy Ball. You've got the Anarchy Ball with the top hat, and that generally represents a business owner or one of the fat cats that the commies love to blame all of their problems on. Mom, my hot pocket is cold in the middle. Blame capitalism. That sort of thing. And then you've got the Anarchy Ball with the bow tie, because Jeffrey Tucker was one of the inspirations for it, and the Tucker Ball has to have a bow tie. And then you'll see other ones. One of the other admins likes to put hands on it, but Anarchy Ball in general is heretical to the rest of the Country Ball series, but we've become more popular than most of the other Country Ball pages, so they've just sort of grumblingly accepted that Anarchy Ball isn't going anywhere. So originally you have to be a country to be a Country Ball, and they hate ideology balls, and that's what Anarchy Ball is. It represents something more than a country. So they started out hating us. So you've got all these other Country Ball pages on Facebook, and they refuse to acknowledge our existence for a while. Have to accept us.
So let's talk about these other ideology balls, because clearly there are some others. Of course, my favorite is Zagor's Ball. I mean, that totally represents me, but we've got some others. Why don't we go through what some of these ideology balls are, so that when people see them, they can have a little bit better idea of what's going on and who's involved in the conversation.
Well, we like to use the Democrat ball, which is the donkey on a ball, and usually it's drooling somehow or peeing itself, because those are the two things that Democrats love to do the most. And you've also got Republican Ball, which is basically just the America Ball with the sunglasses, and he's ultra patriotic and not really that bright. And you've got and Trans Ball, which is black and blue, and it's got the little bionic red eye. And you've got Mutualist Ball, which is black and orange, and that guy, he just approaches life like everything is a game of musical chairs. If you get up for 5 seconds, he's right there. He's taking your spot. There is no property that you can own absentee, and that's one of his big things. Then you've got, of course, the red and black ball, or the black on black ball, who is well known as Angcom John. He's the Angcom Ball. He's one of the biggest retards out there. We're not sure exact now, and we make a lot of fun of him. And then you've got Cuck Ball, which is the orange or yellow and black, and it's got the red Trump hat on.
Oh, the Make America Great hat.
Yeah, that's the one we've been dealing with a lot lately, because they apparently seem to think that Trump is anarcho-capitalism somehow. And so there's lots of different ideology balls out there, and basically it's any ideology you want to straw man and put down and make simple jokes at. You can do that using any format you want to.
So let's talk about this, because to me, I think, especially as of late, in our culture, I do think that the meme is the most powerful. I guess they used to call it propaganda. I've been a fan of street art for a long time, and certainly when I first encountered Shepard Fairey and his work, it has that same sort of meme aspect to it. But it seems like the simpler the meme, the more powerful the meme. Talk to us about what makes a meme great, what makes it spicy.
Well, I've found that people, so they think in these small little bites. This is why the sound bite is so powerful. This is why politicians who say the least while, implying the most generally do better.
Hope and change.
And
Make America great.
yeah, hope and change, all these other little tiny things that people can just grab a hold of and run with. So the meme itself comes from, memetics and talking about how ideas can take hold and spread. The smaller the meme, the more poignant it is. You put too many words on a picture, people aren't going to read it. They're just going to pass it over as being something crazy they came up with. But memes are created anyway. Just a moment of absolute insanity, and you put it on paper, and then other people get it, which is one of the fun things about them. You'll find a lot of memes nowadays are just the worst screw-ups you can imagine, and it becomes funny the worse screwed up it is. I see that a lot. People will distort the image to such a degree to make it completely unrecognizable, and it takes off, So anything can be a meme. As long as there's some sort of reference point to it, anything at all can be a meme. And that's one of the greatest parts about the internet, is that the amount of references and connections that people are drawing are just growing exponentially every day, and everybody is going off into their own little echo chambers, bringing back stuff, and all the good stuff survives. The bad stuff generally dies out really quickly.
So go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So, I think a lot of people first became familiar with memes because of Pepe, right? I think that's when memes sort of burst onto the scene, that the news was talking about it, and of course they totally, the mainstream totally did not get, the old culture totally did not get Pepe. Hillary Clinton was up talking about a fucking frog, and that little portion of the web has really spun off, and there were these, the whole meme magic and keck and the meme wars. Could you, if you could, just break down for us, because I know that you have an understanding of it, even though being an anarchy ball, you obviously were not involved in the meme wars and wanted no part of Kekistan. What happened? Talk to us about the history of this, because it's so interesting, and I think history is actually going to remember this little period, I have a feeling.
I think it will too. I think what's going on when it comes to memetic warfare is that people are starting to realize that the more angry you can make your opponent, the more insane they look. And this is going to be a constant theme from here on out. And the whole idea behind memetic magic sort of goes back to chaos magic, which was popularized in the 1970s with I'm blanking on the name of the book right now. Kybalion, I'm pretty sure it is, and they talked about how these ideas can be spread from person to person almost as if it was a virus. And so the more reference and the more rich storyline you can give a thing, the more it takes off. And that's exactly what you see happening with Pepe. It's like, if Pepe can mean absolutely everything to anyone, then it means nothing to no one, And so if you've got a person like Hillary Clinton up there railing on a cartoon frog, you know for a fact that everybody who listens to her talk about it are either going to buy into what she's selling 100% or just roll their eyes and realize how insane this person is.
Huh.
That's
that's really interesting. I wonder what impact, because there was already certainly the meme going around that Hillary Clinton is insane, that Hillary Clinton is sick, right? That was something that kept going on. And then she got up and actually went off on a cartoon frog, which most people listening were unaware of the cartoon frog. What do you think that that actually might, in that way, her looking crazy? I've never thought about it like this. Her looking crazy, because that's literally something that a crazy person does. Is say that a cartoon frog is destroying them. So in that way, maybe Pepe really did win it for Donald Trump, didn't he? Or at least made her lose.
In a big way, I think that's part of it. If you knew about Pepe before Hillary Clinton got up and started railing about a cartoon frog, then you knew for a fact that she was so out of touch and insane that she probably shouldn't be president. Right. And you probably had a good chuckle about it too. Right. I mean, I did. Most people who talked about it, they thought this is insane. You've got a presidential candidate going to war with a cartoon frog on the internet. Right? I mean, nothing could be more ridiculous. Right. But this is what happened, right? So I think a lot of her support just immediately evaporated from the young people who knew about Pepe before this whole thing erupted. But, you know, again, you've got the older Democrats who do nothing but drool on themselves and piss their pants, who bought it hook, line, and sinker. They just thought, you know, CNN, MSNBC, and Pepe the Frog is now Hitler, you know?
Right. So that is to say that we are in the time of meme warfare. Like, this is real. Like, the meme wars are a real thing, because if a meme can cost a very powerful and influential person, can basically take them down. I mean, these are weapons. Memes are actual weapons, aren't they?
Memes are weapons, but the thing about it is people are just starting to realize that, right? Memes have always been weapons. You've always seen these sound bites and these little things coming out to haunt people. If you remember Michael Dukakis,
back when he was him in the tank.
Yeah, the tank. Right. Like that was his undoing.
See, it's crazy that I remember that.
Of him in the tank.
Or Howard Dean when he went yaw at the end of a thing.
Yeah.
Like 1 second ruined Howard Dean.
Yeah, that's all it takes. And the more meaning you can put onto something that's meaningless, the more hilarious it becomes. Right? I mean, look at Alex Jones and Super Male Vitality. These are the funniest memes out there, because Super Male Vitality and Alex Jones and this hyper masculine, you know, total bogus stuff. It's just, it's hilarious to me. It's such obvious like hucksterism and snake oil salesmanship that it makes the best memes, right? And he's going to go with it because he knows that people are going to say this is hilarious, and I'm going to keep sharing stupid things of Alex Jones making an ass out of himself.
Oh, well, see, so, okay, I get that. So, look, he's getting a ton of Like, I know what Super Male Vitality is. A lot of it is because there's been jokes about it, and because he's just owned it and been like, fuck it, I'm in. He hasn't gotten upset about it. He's just like, more Super Male Vitality, and it's selling like hotcakes.
Exactly, and he knows it. He knows he's a buffoon. He knows that people find him, you know, if you can be so hated by someone that they cannot stand a second of your voice, you're a meme, right? And once you're a meme, you live on in infamy. And this is what's happening now. People are trying to be either 100% hated or able to make somebody else 100% hated. And you know, Donald Trump is a meme. I mean, the guy came out and caused CNN to go into epileptic seizures of hatred. Right. I mean, that's mimetic warfare, you know. And now people are starting to get it. Sometimes being hated is better than being loved.
Well, Machiavelli certainly said that you know, it was you know, you didn't have to equivocate on that being hated could be just as good as being feared, right? Actually to be feared, which I hate, hatred comes from fear, doesn't it? And the fear of Donald Trump is what's driving the media, and that's a perfectly Machiavellian. Machiavelli said in The Prince, he said, it's better to be feared than to be loved. That's some of the greatest political advice there's ever been.
Mimetic warfare has been around since the very beginning of mankind. It's just now taking on a life of its own due to the internet, and I think that's a wonderful thing, because what it's going to do is it's going to accelerate the absurdity, and by accelerating absurdity, you get bad ideas being flushed down the toilet much faster than they would otherwise, because you can make fun of them and people can grasp onto them like Super Male Vitality and just say, this is fucking hilarious, you know.
So
So,
this
I
is
mean, yeah, it's-
go ahead. I'm sorry. You've just got my mind.
keep going.
You've got my mind going nuts. I mean, look, I got a little bit about this. What's weird is I don't know if you even saw this tweet of mine, but like maybe 2 days ago, day before yesterday, maybe I actually had a dream, and it was a very interesting dream. It was a dream where there was a woman who was eating. She was eating like plastic. It was weird, like these little pieces of plastic, and she was going in on it. And then all of a sudden, it like sort of a window flipped into another dimension, and she was just eating macaroni and cheese. And I was like, oh, in some dimension, macaroni and cheese is plastic. Like, oh, this is the power of chaos. And then I was like, oh, this is where memes come from. They come straight out of this weird place. And then I tweeted, I was like, oh, I'm getting meme magic now. I'm starting to understand how powerful this is. What I want to talk to you about is, so we're talking about meme warfare. And why I think that this is so awesome is memes don't violate the non-aggression principle, and yet they can have far-reaching implications for politics, for the state, for all of this. I mean, talk a little bit about that, because that's this is the first. It's a non-violent weapon, right? And even in the art of war, it says right there that it says, the greatest thing is not to fight and win. The greatest thing is to never have to fight at all. That's the true thing of the greatest general. Talk a little bit about this non-aggression principle weapon. That's really what we've got, isn't it?
That's right. And what you're doing now is you're starting to see the scales start to rebalance out, right? You've got people whose minds work better than 90% of the people who claim to be their leaders. Now taking the reins of society by causing their leaders to basically make total fools out of themselves. Right? This is important. You don't have to be able to make a speech to control a nation anymore. All you have to do is cause the people who do make speeches to lose their mind on camera. Right? I mean, this is next level trolling, and this is very important for meme magic. And I think a lot of people who are starting to go back to the Kybalion, starting to go back to chaos magic, and all these other things that talked about information as being a magical tool, is they're starting to make spicy, dank memes that are turning people into basically these weapons, because that's what you want. Is you want to turn as many people into your weapon as possible by making the spiciest meme available. Right? So if I want to piss off a bunch of bootlick statists, I'm going to insult their flag, right? And for some reason, the flag is a symbol to them that they cannot separate their own identity.
Well, the flag is a meme
they never
too,
will.
isn't it? The flag is a meme as well.
Right? And when you attack that meme, you get the most retarded responses about physical violence, right? They'll never do it. But I was a veteran, and I've been deployed twice, and what I will do is I will say, listen, if you want to hit me, I will show up anywhere you want me in my full Class A uniform, and I'll have a flag draped on my shoulders, and you can punch me in the face, and I won't even fight back.
Right.
You'll get one free hit in the face. They'll turn it down every time. It's like they're powerless under the magic of their meme.
Wow.
Once you drip yourself in this fabric, they're incapable of backing up their threats.
Wow.
It really is a magic cloth to some people.
This is, yes. Whew, I'm getting chills on this discussion. Right? There were people on Twitter asking, "You're really going to talk to a ball?" I think they're going to watch this and go, "Holy shit. What was that?" Oh, wow. I'm like, this is really crazy. So, dude, okay. So let's move a little further forward.
Yes.
If we are looking to start. So now we take in the memes, right? Take them in. The ones that are truly dank, the ones that are truly spicy. And for people to understand, it's like a dank meme is like dank weed. Like it gets you high where you get a feeling out of it, right? Like a real visceral feeling. And the spicy ones.
And the thing is,
go ahead.
Like when you get that comedy feeling, like a lot of the comedians, you see stand-up comedians dying all the time, like they're killing themselves and everything else. And there's this letdown after you've got this adrenaline rush of everybody in the audience laughing and everybody on your side and everybody cheering. And that's sort of what you get when you're sharing these memes and you see all these people reacting to it and you know that they're laughing on their side of the screen. And then you feel completely depressed knowing that all you did was hit a button on a computer, And so there's this tide of like depression memes, right? And the more pathetic and depressing it is, the more funny it is. Right. And you've got a whole bunch of these people who just get off on this feeling of total depression and like rock bottomness from these memes. And I find it funny. It's like you've got all these human emotional cycles that you're able to fully enunciate in 2 sentences, and it's human experience, and you could just keep that wave rolling with all these depression memes as well as really funny stuff, really referential funny stuff. That's the key too, is having that referential handle, and it's really hard to grab a hold of it sometimes. Like how do you make something that is in your mind stick to somebody that you've never met before? This is the biggest issue when you make memes, is how do you hit that handle?
So let's talk about the interesting thing about this. Like I actually have a little bit, because I have a philosophy degree. I've actually read a lot about the philosophy behind magic, right? So stuff like with what Aleister Crowley was doing and Hermetic magic, and these ideas go back. People don't know and they don't understand that these ideas go back, as far as we know that we have records, they certainly go back to ancient Egypt, and that some people don't know that Egypt actually had 2 writing systems. One was called hieratic, which was written on paper, and it was like we have, it was a phonetic alphabet. And the other one was hieroglyphics, which was only written by the priests, which was only written in public spaces, which was carved into stone. So that's what we still have. Those are memes, aren't they? This is from all the way back there. They're memes, huh?
Absolutely. And the memes that you get in a hieroglyphic, it's supposed to tell an entire story. Like let's take what's his name? The ibis head. Thoth.
Thoth, yes.
Thoth, for instance, he is the god of memes, and all of these Pepes would be his children, right? You've got the god of writing itself, and basically what he would be able to do is to move between the spaces. Again, like you were saying, Hermetic magic. You've got Hermes Thoth being the god. He was the god of measurement and air. And basically, the idea is, as long as you've got these reference points that other people can attach themselves to, you can get into their heads just by them recognizing. It's the idea of you have power over something when you give it a name. Right. Like that's the idea of memeing, is once you give that thing a name, once you give that thing a reference, then you can use it over and over again. It's artists using different techniques, on canvas. Once you hit that reference point, then you can use it in a million different ways. And that's what memes are. It's brush strokes.
Interesting. So we've got, to take it to Egypt, I think that this potentially puts a whole new context to us understanding civilization as a civilization really in general. Egypt was an unbroken culture for at least 5,000 years. There were pharaohs for maybe that long, at least 3. Moses, of course, was the adopted son of a pharaoh, if we're supposed to believe that, and you would assume that he had been taught this meme magic, their meme magic, and how to control the masses with this meme magic. And no surprise that he was able to lead a whole bunch of people out of Egypt and get them to follow some new rules with this meme magic. And then it carries through. It really starts to say that this is the core power that may have actually created civilization. Would that be fair to say?
I think in a lot of ways, it's what bound civilization together, right?
Okay.
Everyone has this idea of culture as being ephemeral, and it's not material, and it's some sort of feeling that you get when you're in a certain place. And to an extent, it's true, but it's only within the individual. You can't study a culture without looking at the material that makes it up. And a lot of times you'll have these politicians, these leaders, and everyone else talking about their culture as if it's some sort of etheric thing that flows through everybody who's a member of it, like it's some sort of force. It's just not the case. Like, this is their magic. This is their memeing the population to believe that they're somehow connected to one another. Only individuals act. Only individuals can think. You know, I mean, you want to go back to praxeology. Let's talk about the axiomatic nature of how people act. And essentially what they've done is they've turned society into a giant meme of collectives, right? And these collectives are good. These ones benefit you. These are the positive aspects. And then those guys, the other over there, these are the things you need to be aware of. And it's carried to segment themselves based off of, the simple idea of that they are this thing. Of course they're not. They are not the culture. They are the creators of the culture. Anytime they want to, they can create their own culture, just like that, at the drop of a hat. But people don't see it, so they continue living on in this sort of perpetual memed state of mind, right? Like, they'll look at the flag and they'll think that somehow this is them, when it's not. It doesn't represent them or anything, really. It's just colored fabric, right? But they're so into it, and it's been like that since the very beginning. I think the first collectivism is beyond imagining, right? I think at a certain point it was, this is my family, so I have to do what they say. And then it just sort of carries on up the chain,
Right. Wow. This is really, really amazing. I mean, I just wrote this book, and now it's doing actually quite well, and I've just sold it with cryptocurrency, and it actually sold out of the first printing, which is pretty crazy. And I'm going to send you a copy because it's
oh, very good. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's called Self-Ownership, the Foundation of Property and Morality, and we're talking about this, and it's all about collectives and the individual. And I'm definitely I'm going to get your little ball address, and I'm going to send you a signed copy of this dude for sure. I still have like 2 or 3 of the original printing left, so you're definitely getting one of those. But what I find
Thank you very much.
Thank you. What I find so interesting about this is, like I say, in my study of magic, certainly whether it's the people who are into like the right hand path or Setian magic or Aleister Crowley and the OTO and all of this, it's so about taking power as an individual. And they all say, and now I'm starting, it's weird that I've read this stuff. I mean, my bookshelf is full of these books because I've found it mystifying. As a student of philosophy, I've always found this particular thing mystifying and not understood it. But now I'm understanding that, these are people who realized meme magic, who understood meme magic, and they understood that the only power you can ever have, the only defense you have from meme magic is individualism. When
Yes.
Aleister Crowley, he was called the wickedest man on earth by the media of his time. And in his book of the law, he said, do what thou wilt, and that will be the whole of the law. And that's what you're talking about. You can create your own culture. Do what you will.
Yes.
That will be the culture.
Yeah, and as we're talking about this stuff, you have to realize that it's not a foreign language to the people who run the society. Like, it may not appear that they know what they're doing, and it may not appear that they have any sort of basis in this type of radical individualism that Crowley talked about in, Liber Alpha Legis and a lot of other tomes that he wrote. Like, have you read Book 4 by Crowley?
I've probably got it on the bookshelf. I don't know. No, they're mixed in with all these collections. Nowadays you can only just buy the collections. But I will read Book 4 for sure.
Oh, okay. Book 4 is the big one. It's the big blue book. He's got a section.
I do
in
have
there
it. I
talking
do have that. I've got it in hardback. Yep, I have it.
He's got a section in there talking about how the magical meaning behind nursery rhymes, and this is meme magic in and of itself.
Wow.
What he talks about is creating a new translation of a nursery rhyme and giving it more power than it ever possibly had before in your life. Reattribute the same words to new meanings, and it creates a power all of its own.
Oh, he was a master
and that's
of that.
what a meme
He
does.
was a master of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was his thing, because he had to write in a time where there was censorship, great censorship. So he had to. That's why some of his writings, until you understand what's going on, I'm blown away sometimes, because they're almost like riddles, where you're like, it seems like he's writing this nonsense until if somebody, it's like one of those pictures where like you can't see it, it looks like it's just and then when you see it you can't unsee it. And some of Crowley's stuff is like that, to where it's like, oh, this is nonsense, and then somebody says, oh, that's about blowjobs, right? And then you read it and you're like, oh dude, this guy's a fucking genius.
Yeah, he was a freak too. I mean, like, let's not forget that this guy was, a lot of his life was spent just being depraved,
right?
Like absolutely depraved. I mean, this is the thing. You can learn from his mistakes. You can learn from the tragedy that basically he surrounded himself with,
right?
And try to make yourself, better than that. And what a lot of people don't understand about magic is that magic is just a word. It's just a definition of something that is internal, going on within your own mind, that causes you to act differently on the outside. And a lot of people say, well, there's nothing mystical about that. That's just meditation or whatever. But you got to understand, the well within yourself is much deeper than you'll ever know, ever, right? You'll never get to the bottom of the well within yourself. So once you realize that point, then all of this stuff about memetics and all the things that you can create and the infinite amount of variety you can use, with just a few words, will start to make sense to you, because every one of these steps can be used as a handle to pick up, meaning, and throw it out at the world and let other people pick it up and throw it out at their friends. Right. This is how wars are won, and people don't even realize that. It's the state is just a group of individuals, and they've lost touch with the rest of society. This is why they're on the decline. I don't think they can ever pick it back up again, because they don't understand technology. They don't understand the human consciousness. It's all beyond them at this point.
Wow. I think that's a great place to leave it, bro. Like, I wasn't expecting this out of this interview. You've blown my mind, and I want to thank you. This was a transformative experience for me. And it's funny, like I told you earlier that I've kind of been out of it all day. Remember when I said that I've been kind of out of it all day, and my mind's been in a weird place, and I think it was getting ready to have this conversation, man. And it's, wow, amazing.
Well, thank you. I mean, I always enjoy talking to people about this sort of stuff.
Wow. Well, we will have to have you back on if meme wars heat up, to explain to us what's going on, so that we can have
the play-by-play of meme wars. Oh, that'd be great.
Wouldn't that be great? I think that'd be. So can you be our official meme war correspondent?
I could do that. Yes.
Brother,
I could do that.
I love it. My brother Ball, big baller. Anarchyball, go visit him at Anarchyball, of course, on Twitter is a great place to follow him, and anarchyball.com. Thank you so much for being on, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
So, Christian.
Wow.
Comments?
Oh my God, dude.
I told you before the show started, I was like, this is going to be your favorite interview.
Yeah.
Was I right?
Yeah, by far, yeah. Dude, it's fucking amazing.
Mind blown, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna have to even listen to it
I'm
again
gonna listen to
myself.
it,
There
yeah.
are so many nuggets in there, dude. So, shall we leave it there?
Absolutely.
We're out of time. All right,
Yeah.
let me say goodbye to the people.
That's great.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Yeah, it's I know that was a big one. I'm gonna let that settle in for you guys. So, for all of you who listen on podcast, you can do that on iTunes and Stitcher, and don't worry, we'll get this week's up very, very fast. If you want to check out the archives of the show and in a searchable format, both full shows and individual clips, you can do that at vinarmani.com. If you would like to order a copy of my new book, the next printing, the second printing, maybe I'll put it back here. There we go. vinarmani.com/self-ownership. So we will be back again. You can take that off. Thank you, Christian. We'll be back again next week. Christian and I. Oh, and thank you, Christian. If I didn't say thank you, thank you. Thank you very much for all of your work today. We'll be back again next week, 10 a.m. Monday morning. And until then, stay free.